Yeah, I mean, well, let's play a little bit of this Stephen Miller clip, Matt. If I'm sure you've seen it floating around,
Hmm.
and talking about the tariffs, because I want to note that like we're getting two different stories from people in and around the administration about what the goal and the purpose of it is here. I'll play a little bit of this first, and then we can maybe talk about some of the other stated policies. But this is Stephen Miller, and for people who don't remember Stephen Miller, I mean, Stephen Miller is about as low as they come. Stephen Miller is somebody who is undoubtedly, in my mind, an authoritarian and a fascist. And this is him talking about what the intention of these tariffs is going to be.
Can you talk about the president's historical view on global trade and the tool of tariffs or the use of tariffs that he envisions, not just through Liberation Day today, but how he's used it over the years?
Yes. Well, the announcement today is the most significant action on global trade policy that has taken place in our lifetimes. It's not even a close call. I mean, this is probably the biggest event that's happened on global trade since the very ill-fated decision that we are now reversing of knocking down all of America's trade tariffs and revenue policies that led to the offshoring and outsourcing of all of our industries. So this is the great reversal of that great betrayal, is how I would look at it. So in the 20th century, successive American presidents.
It wasn't the tariffs that caused offshoring. It was capitalist. Like tariffs have been low for a while. The reason America dominated mid-century was because yeah, an advantage coming from the productive 19th century leading into the 21st century and our massive resources, but also the rest of the world was bombed to shit, or at least the rest of the industrialized world. And then that sort of and China, was behind, but there's a historically contingent for that, and eventually they're going to rise. To say it's tariffs, I think is just such stupid.
Well, I mean, I think fair enough, but I think that there's two claims that Miller's going to make in this clip, and the first one that he's making and what you're responding to, Matt, is in contradiction to what the second reasoning is. And like the fact of the matter is that the offshoring comes from a system of free trade, right? A system where it's not expensive for us to import goods into the United States from other countries, right? So that played a huge role. That's why that was the whole idea of NAFTA is okay, you can produce here, and there, and it won't cost more money for those things to be imported to the United States, right? So that is sort of what he's getting at. But this is the point, Matt, is that the Trump administration is saying three different things when it comes to tariffs and what their role in politics is, right? One, other countries are screwing us over and they're charging too much on tariffs, so we're going to win the tariff war, right? And what is that? That's basically a free trade position, saying we're going to get all the tariffs and we're going to get the tariffs to 0%
Right.
through these cannons, right? But that's not what he's talking about, because that was the conditions that, he can't talk about that because those are the conditions that created the offshoring that he's saying was the great betrayal of America, right?
Right.
And now the other one that he's going to get into, and people probably have seen this clip or heard him talk in the past, is that it's a kind of national security thing. So we're going to produce more in America so that other countries can't meddle with us, right? But again, these are contradictory positions. Are we using the tariffs to push a new free trade regime that's even more favorable to America than before? Or is this the first step? Jesus Christ, the first step in a new phase of isolation. Let's let him keep going here for a second.
Knocked down all of the policies that we had to protect American industry, and they did insane things like letting China into the World Trade Organization, as an example. And we watched all of our factories go overseas. This is the complete reversal of that. This is the great onshoring, the great reshoring of American jobs and wealth. So if you look at America today, we're totally dependent on foreign countries for the supplies that make this country run, for all of the essential goods, materials, manufactured products that make it possible for us to live our lives. Our cars, our electronics, all the materials that go into our homes, our buildings, our medical supplies, our entire supply chains are completely embedded in foreign countries. So if there's a national emergency of any kind, and a country shuts off an import or a foreign power embargoes a sea lane, we are then left defenseless, helpless.
And clip is longer, obviously, but that's kind of it, right? So two positions that are in contradiction and in tension with each other is to basically create an autarky, which is like an internal system, an economic system where we produce our own stuff and we consume our own stuff, and we're sort of outside of the global system, which is not what Trump is talking about most of the time, right? He's talking about how we want to be selling more of our goods, we want to get better deals, and I think that like. The thing with Trump is that like Trump has so concentrated power around him that like there's a lot of contingency there. And what I mean by that is like there are like larger economic and political forces that play a role, but because Trump has really like set the state up around himself, or at least the Trump administration around himself, there's a lot of his personal quirks here that we sort of have to be able to include in our analysis. And the fact of the matter is that I don't even think that they really have a strong sense of what it is that they want to achieve here, other, than pushing for maybe a better, stronger deal for the American empire, right? And I think that might be the hope and the intention that like, oh, these other countries are just going to have to accept better and better conditions for the American economic system, but these aren't coherent. With again the arguments that they're making, and we'll see if there's an appetite internationally to play this game, because I think that more likely than not, this pushes more and more countries away from America because of how unstable.
Japan and Korea have already announced they're going to work closer with China. Like I'm trying to think of what time. Like maybe 1949. Like when would this have been a feasible thing to do? Like it just seems like I mean, well, I have a little bit of Howard Lutnick if you want to.
That sounds great.
This is Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, I believe, also the CEO of Rumble, Cantor Fitzgerald Acquisition Corporation, number 6. Here is Lutnick on Face the Nation.
He announced it, and he wasn't kidding. The tariffs are coming. Of course they are.
Okay. Is the administration considering any kind of offset, any kind of subsidy? You mentioned the first administration, there was some bailout to farmers to help them deal with the pain from Chinese retaliation. Are you looking at that now?
Not that I have not participated in any meetings with respect to that. The country is focused on, you realize trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. That's huge GDP. The factories being built in America are huge.
That takes
GDP.
years, and you've said that robots are going to fill those jobs.
So
those aren't union
no, it's really automated
jobs.
It's automated factories, but the key is who's going to build the factories, who's going to operate the factories, who's going to make them work. Great American workers. We are going to replace
on other
the
networks.
armies of millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones. That kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America are high school educated Americans. The core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America.
And then what? When the factory building job is done, you just fuck off? Let the capitalist who owns the factory collect all the revenue from it, huh?
I mean, it is. You want to talk about an acceleration of a lot of the crises that they were supposedly elected to fix. Let's just accelerate automation in the United States manufacturing. I mean, look, and I think that that's a kind of telling aspect of the Trump administration is that like even in the fantasy, right? Because again, like they're not building these factories in 4 years. It's absurd. It's just it is ludicrous to sit here and talk about this as like an actual economic strategy of like onshoring, because it's going to take That will take years and years and years and years and years to achieve. That's not something that's going to happen in a short period of time. But even in the wild fantasy where like you can just pop up factories, right? It's a fantasy of the owner. It literally is. That's as far as it goes. It's like we will build factories and there'll be an American owner, and that's pretty much as far as his vision goes here. Look, we'll be watching a lot of these, and we'll see how serious they are about them. But at this point, people have been talking about how long it takes to move factories over to re-onshore, which is again, it's just a bullshit fantasy of some freaks. We're already going to be experiencing this. Even let's say right now, Matt and I are going to look real stupid. Donald Trump is on TV at the same time as we are on, and he just announced that he's pulling back every single tariff. Right, the damage is already done. You think that people who own, for example, ships, people who import things, they haven't already changed their strategies? No, there is already going to be severe crises that go beyond just price. We're going to be dealing with questions of availability for certain goods. Expansions that might have been happening certainly aren't now because everybody's going to be holding off with their money until they can get a better sense of what the plan is. That's the number one thing you'll hear from anybody who does investment is they want to have a strong guarantee about what the future will look like. So these kind of things have bigger effects than just like, oh, the stock market went down for a few days and there were some insane news clips. The consequences of this are going to be around for a little while.